the microphone or speakers in my human iPhone. So if that kept happening, I would not have been able to organize my thoughts very well because I would keep hearing myself with a 7 second delay. I think it's very funny uh, that it's a 7 second delay. There's a reason for that. Anyway, today, this early evening, mid afternoon, whatever time it is where you are, I prefer twilight. In my reality, when I get to have a whole ass planet, it's going to be perpetual twilight. And everything is going to be based on luminescence and sound and a lot of crystals. Speaking of, I have my fancy crystal on. This one has gold in it. And then I've got my glitter-filled selenite, which used to be tendon. These are real gold earrings I got for Christmas from my father 2 years ago. My dad is a wonderful rock and geology geek, although he refuses to accept the reality of mud fossils, which is fairly typical of boomers. I don't blame him. Like, they think we're crazy. But he has an amazing gem, rock, and gemstone collection. He has a lot of amazing collections. Anyway, this live stream is going to be centered around how I figured out that I was getting blasted with very painful electromagnetic torture frequencies. But it started long before that, and all of that stuff is important, so I'm going to include that as well. All right, so I grew up primarily in a home that everyone in the vicinity considered haunted, including myself and my parents, both of which are to this day atheists. I love that Christians are one decision away from becoming atheists, and atheists are one decision away from becoming Christians. Like, y'all just walk a tightrope. There's so many more options. Expand, please. The pleroma is begging for you. At any rate, my parents got a deal on the home because it was a suicide house. There were two gentlemen who took their lives in that home. The first was one of the sons. I believe he was a young adult. And I believe he silly-sided himself in the master closet of my parents' bathroom, or my former parents' bathroom. Biological Earth parents. I'm not talking about any of the hybrid stuff right now. It's completely unrelated and not topical at all. But I will answer some questions about it if you write good questions. That's very important. I cannot break the law of confusion, which means your questions have to demonstrate that I'm not going to do that. Okay. Anyway, after the son, in that particular timeline, the father felt very bad about it, and he took a pew-pew, typically loaded with buckshot, and ate it in the garage. So growing up, the home was haunted, which means it was artificially haunted, which means that the two silly sides from the previous family who lived in the same exact home were getting blasted with negative frequencies, making them think the thoughts of technology instead of their own thoughts. One of the purposes of Freddy, which is frequency-based weaponized surveillance technology that has been fully operational for at least 70 decades. I mean, sorry, 7 decades. I can't count in any language or culture. Um, I apologize for ignoring the chat right now. I will go back and read your questions, I promise. Um, so, the reason why I know this happened, or at least to me, why I still believe it, is because I found when I was, after I had left, I grew up in Colorado. After I left Colorado, I had come back to visit to pack up some stuff I still had at their home. I grew up in the foster care system. I sort of came and went like a hostel uh, night stayer at my parents' home. My childhood was wild. Um, but I was looking for things that I could take back to college. And I was in the master closet, and I had to get a stool for the top shelf to look for the purses my mom said that I could take. And I got interested because there was a little cubby in the ceiling, whatever they're called. So I pressed it, and it didn't take me much more than a few swipes to find the paper, and it was a silly side letter from the Sun. That's one reason why I believe this. The second reason why, and I hope I will get my father on camera telling this story much better than I'm about to tell it. My father worked all over the world. My father is also a hybrid. My earth mother is not. My biological mother is. I know that's confusing. Get used to it. How long do you think it took me to figure out? I still don't understand a lot of it. It's very ancient. At any rate, my father worked all over the world. He was gone a lot. He worked primarily in the eastern steppe regions of Asia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, all over China, Australia, all over Africa, parts of Europe, and then, of course, all over the American Southwest and a little bit of the East Coast as well. He was a chemical engineer and a trailblazer in the mining industry because he not only taught or built stuff for companies who were looking to find certain things, but he also decided to teach them how to properly clean it up so the ecosystems could get their lives back. And that's a lot of his passion for that is where I get a lot of my connection to all the critters of the world, and especially the plants that I have. Everyone has that. You have all been everything you see before you. You just don't remember. But if you think long enough, it will come to you if you believe it. So, my father was gone a lot. And I think I was in the middle of college part 1 when I came home for Christmas or something. And my brother, my former brother, who lives in Prague, we don't communicate anymore. He is also a hybrid, but I have one sister and one brother who are not. They are fully human. Have fun with that. I'm not lying about this, by the way. I know it is very difficult for you to believe, but I believe that as time goes by, it will make more and more sense to you, I hope, because there's a lot of sense that needs to be made. So my brother was there, and my father had just returned from the airport in a taxi. And he said, the strangest thing happened in that taxi ride, of which he's had probably hundreds of thousands at this point. He's been alive for a long time, longer than, and he said as soon as I got in the taxi, the driver asked me, "Where you headed?" And I said, "Southeast Denver." And the driver said, "Okay, I know that. What street are you headed to?" And he said, "It's the intersection of Hamden and Tamarack," which was like the beginning of our neighborhood, I guess. We didn't have like an HOA. It was just like a suburban, typical neighborhood. Uh, and then the driver said something like, "Well, I have family that has lived there, so I know the streets pretty well. If you can just give me your street." And he said, my father said Roslyn. And the driver asked for the address, and my father gave it, and the driver was silent. And my dad was silent, and they were both asking each other silently, like, "What the fuck?" And the driver said something like, "Did you purchase the home from such and such?" The name of his sister, I believe. And my father said, "Yes, we did. In this year at this price." And he said, her husband and my nephew, her oldest, silly-sided themselves in that house. And I've always wondered if it was haunted. And my father was kind of blown away by that because he grew up as a complete atheist with 5 children telling him, "This home is haunted." Was it haunted? Yes. By ghosts? No. By government spook technology? Yes. Now, why in the world would someone as insignificant as a half-breed, as they like to call us, be selected from billions and billions of beings to be singled out and tortured? That's not how it works. When you see a sick person, when you see someone with diabetes, when you see oftentimes a broken limb or a catastrophic accident, that seems natural. When you see a sunburn, when you see any kind of STD, any kind of skin issue, when you see hair loss, balding, that's also Freddie. Freddie is doing all of that because Freddie operates with your skin suit you don't know you have, and is the hardest selling point on this particular not psyop. This one is real, and it is arena-wide, which means it's all of us, including hybrids. We are not supposed to be part of the human reindeer games, but we got dragged into this because the scientists who created the skin suit from a mixture of a lattice of graphene filled in with nanochitin, graphene dots, and any kind of heavy metals, fungus, bloodborne illnesses, whatever they feel like. Doesn't matter. They spray it in the skies right in front of your face, and you call it contrails. Whose fault is that? The government's? Are you sure? They're the perpetrators. That doesn't mean they're at fault, though. That means they started it. But by pretending like it's natural, because I refuse to believe that there is a single human being on this earth, at least born before like 1980, that thinks chemtrails are natural. I refuse to believe that. Deep down, you know that something is up. The world is not normal. Very little of this makes sense. And it's very hard to watch, especially when you know what's going on. I have never once in my life been privy to any of this based on my standings in my family group. I had no idea that this was a thing. I personally thought my family group was using simple telepathy tricks and simple magical spells, frequencies that put the brain waves in a certain state to be more accepting or more rejecting, depending on what you want. I had no idea it was a skin suit that's also an inside skin suit. That essentially gives Freddy complete control over your vessel. But you have to remember, you could walk through a wall if you wanted to. A physical wall. Ow. Wrong arm. That's real wood. That's a Murphy bed, actually. But you choose not to. You choose not to believe that. Watch the movie The Men Who Stare at Goats. The movie even tells you at the beginning that more of this is true than you would like to know or admit or whatever. That movie is 100% true, and the place where that was filmed is like less than an hour for where I currently sit. And then Ghostbusters. There's so much disclosure in the movies, you guys. The ESP school at the movie Ghostbusters, where Venkman works, Bill Murray's character, I think Venkman, whatever. That was at Duke University. I have a degree from that ridiculous pile of very fancy bullshit. At Duke, it's so ridiculous, you can come up with your own degree. Oh my goodness gracious. Anyway, so I grew up in a haunted home. And when I started transitioning into a mixture of a female and a male in puberty, my mother started to lose her mind. And remember, the mother I'm talking about is 100% human, okay? I don't know if all of you watching are. I have no idea. I don't really care. It's none of my business. And quite frankly, it does not make a huge difference other than a certain number of minor details. But she was getting absolutely hammered with technology, with Freddy frequencies. And the same thing happened to my grandmother, who was also fully human, but also 100% my grandmother. When you include science with conception, you can do all kinds of things. Very easily, actually. It's not that complicated. The way you are taught science, math, history, geography, geology, all of it being separated, mistake number one. Mistake number one. It has already been color-coded and shape-coded and frequency coded for you. You would fare better if you had grown up with wolves, quite frankly, because then you would think for yourself. Like, I even struggle with the amount of human thought patterns I still have because I have that DNA. It is part of your character. Your soul will shine through. The real you will shine through as soon as you, quite honestly, accept accountability for everything that happens in your life. And that's incredibly, incredibly difficult. That is what I refused to acknowledge after I had already done this deep soul work. I refused it. I did not want it to be true. And guess what? It was true. I would demonstrate it to you right now if I had a better microphone that could pick up the people playing tennis or the Blue Jays or the Cardinals, the house finch, the magpies. More cardinals. Lots of cardinals. And then a chickadee. Oh, a chickadee. They're so delightful. I just love the birds so much. Nature makes me very excited. And not because I want to hurt it. Because I love it. Because I am it. I don't like physical life. I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, let's hike a mountain. Let's dive into the deepest thing. No, I like here. I like here better because I can do anything and go anywhere, almost anywhere. Earth life is not for me. This has been a rough ride, but ever since the shit clicked, it's been a fun ride. I will give you that. That is the only time in my entire life I've ever seen a cure for depression. And I think what that means is when it clicks and clicks for good, you are able to maintain your own frequency in a sea of mostly nefarious frequencies. But not all. There has to be balance, especially with the Lights. They're in enough karmic trouble as it is. If you had any idea of the price those people are having to pay, or as humans would say, are going to have to pay, you would pray for them. They're not your enemies. They're just, like, I believe they're literally only in place as bread in circuses for those without eyes and ears, and as clue givers for people who understand. Some of them love humans. Some of them absolutely hate you. It's a weird world. I dabbled in it for a little bit, professionally, in the 90s and the early to late 2000s. And that's when I decided to wise up and pay a whole bunch of money to go to art school. That was even dumber than getting involved in the adult industry as a marketing person, not a performer. Look, I get this, like, at this point, 3 times a day in my inbox or DMs. I do not do OnlyFans, y'all. I've told you this so many times. I do OnlyFans. If you want to access that, you better figure out how to get your genetic frequency to emit something hybrid or reptilian to access it, because the tech we use for that is not, it's not physical. Nothing is physical. You just think it is. And right now, so do I. All right. The first time I remember having suicidal thoughts was in the 5th grade. Do you think that's normal for a 5th grader to want to end it all because it's so hard for a 5th grader? Granted, my life wasn't exactly easy in the 5th grade, but you know what I mean. The second time, and I mean in terms of like very drawn out periods of time, years, was when I was 20. And that was in 1980. After that, I ended up caving, and I almost deliberately fell into the worst possible fucking thing you could do if you ever start experiencing voices, shocks, just weird electromagnetic stuff, frequency torture. And that is the psychiatric industry. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest stumbling block I ever fell for. And it's because of drugs. I love drugs. I will always love drugs. I love being in different states of consciousness. And I can also produce all of the drugs I love, just as long as I meditate correctly and I've got the right frequency going on. I can recreate almost any sensation. I'm not super great at it yet, but I'm getting there. So if you're a junkie like me, we're both retarded because we could be getting high off of our own version with no withdrawals at all. I'm telling you guys, the solutions are for problems are never in the physical world. Unless it's like, oh, I spilled water on the floor. I mean, I think you could dehydrate it immediately with your thoughts if they were powerful enough. But towels work too. Otherwise, like if it's a mental problem, it's there because it requires a mental solution. And by mental, I mean metaphysical. And by metaphysical, I mean the boss of the physical world. Meta. Sidebar. I need to make a video about my conversation that I recorded with Lumos, who is building fiber optic fast internet cable, and Americans have no ability to opt out. Almost like a smart meter, but you can still opt out of that. And apparently you can opt out of Lumos, but that's a whole other video. Okay, so when I fell into the psychiatric trap, I got a diagnosis of being bipolar. That one is one of my absolute favorites because it's like a joke right in your face. Like, almost everything in this world is bipolar. Get it? Like male, female, yes, no. So, yeah. I allowed myself to be put on lithium. And that actually helped because the placebo effect works. Thoughts create things. Belief systems create timelines. Then I was given Wellbutrin, and I took one, and I didn't sleep for a week, and I thought it was the greatest thing ever because I had a drawing due, and I hated the drawing, and it was a 3-point perspective drawing, and I worked on that drawing night and day for like 5.5 days, and then I still didn't sleep, and the culmination point of the drawing was a television screen on which a movie was playing called The Vanishing Point. My teacher was like, I'm a little concerned. Like, this is above your pay grade, and you did a really good job. What's going on? Hilariously, decades later, that same professor ended up being one of my students in an encaustic workshop I taught in the mountains of the Appalachia Range. That's so funny. Okay, back to Freddie. I'm not going to talk about the haunted stuff because it's the same shit. You know, seeing stuff, hearing stuff, feeling stuff, blah, blah, blah. Let's fast forward to the time when I began to realize that I was a hybrid. This is a topic I'm going to get in trouble for talking about, and I don't really care because I'm already in trouble for something, and like if you're gonna punish me, just let's go full Monty, baby. Let's do it all. I'm tired of caring. And actually, like, I feel like smoking a cigarette when I talk about this because I'm a little bit pissed off about this. When I knew that my body operated differently from most people, well, all people, really, if you consider, you know, human beings to be people. I'm gonna plug in my microphone and my earphones. I largely ignored it. One of the deals I made for this timeline is that I would, pardon me, show up with a very significant intellectual deficit. I'm sorry, you guys. I just drove all the birds away. Wait, do I have? Yes, I think. Okay. Sorry, you guys. Just smoking. What are you, Karens? You know, Karen used to smoke. That's probably better. So, yeah, I agreed to an intellectual deficit, and I have had to overcome a lot of that. But it was very isolating. It was very embarrassing because there are certain things that happen when you do things like shower or bathe. And this was before a lot of the tech that hybrid families have now. When you go through puberty. And because my transgenderism is different than what most people think, I'm going to tell you. When the fertilized egg of a full-blooded reptilian and a hybrid human reptilian is essentially transported into the uterus of a human mother, the result is a human hybrid. And the pregnancy is sort of controlled with frequencies. So if there are any problems, they know immediately. But the other thing I agreed to was like the veil of ignorance, just forgetting all of this stuff, forgetting everything I knew, like literally everything. And when I was a kid, I thought I was super dumb. I thought I was like retarded, for real. Like the bad word retarded. When I say retarded, I mean slow. I mean ignorant, not stupid. None of you are stupid. It's impossible for you to be stupid because you're literally made up of a consciousness, which is intelligence itself. That's where it came from. That's where it comes from. That's where it goes in and out all day long. I had a really hard time fitting in. I felt like I was playing pretend because I was. But the thing about puberty is that it takes over so much of your body and your mind because those biological drugs are very powerful. I just didn't care and I stopped thinking about it. And that lasted for about 44 years or so, I think, around that, for maybe 34. I get numbers, I have dyscalculia, or dyscalculia, whatever it's called. It's like dyslexia, but with numbers, because my family group doesn't use the same type of numerical system, and human math does not make any sense. It's not how you should learn math. You should learn math visually and through practice, not through learning memorization of equations. Anyway, let's get back to Freddie. I was a big drinker for a long time. And what drinking does is it puts your spiritual growth on pause indefinitely. And I buried my head in the sand for too long because I wanted to be an artist, or I wanted to be a marketing person, or I wanted to like hang out with porn stars and be the cool chick on the internet. Like I was an influencer before influencers were influencers. And then before that, I was on the radio, and I garnered quite a bit of, you know, like fake fame. And when the system rewards you enough, you believe it. It's only when the system does not reward you anymore that you start to wake up. Because the system is smart, and it is designed to ensure that you are you, because there are infinite yous, but you have to be a unique version of you. That means you have to feel the frequency of every single thing around you. You have to be aware of it, and then you have to learn how to translate it. I can't wait until y'all get into that part. You guys are like exceptionally good at it, just naturally. And you designed yourselves, just so you know. You're based on Lumanian design. You call them Lemurian for reasons I don't understand. It's Lumanian and not like the ones that are in the history books. Those are ripoffs. Long story. Anyway, both the Lumanians and you yourself gave you this really cool ability to feel a frequency and know exactly what the emotional meaning is. So like if like the room is off, you'll know who it's coming from and why. You know, if the store's about to be robbed, you know ahead of time. These frequencies happen a long time before the events they are ushering in actually occur. And that is a unique feature. That is unique to human beings. That's one of the reasons why I chose this whole insane game, because I love that. I love being able to feel a frequency emotionally instead of what my family group does, which is mathematically. It is translated from waves to numbers to words and then emotions. Emotions are not so common. And I am a highly emotional creature, and that is also something that I wanted to experience when I came here. I wanted to know what it was like to be a real human being. And I'm pretty sure I do. Pretty sure I do. It breaks my heart that you guys don't realize that all of the shit you hate about this world could instantaneously disappear if you just stepped into your power and took accountability. That's all it takes. And I think that's why Freddie did not do the same thing to me that Freddie does to most people. Because early on, I knew inherently that whatever was happening was my fault. And I made a video about that early on. And then I posted it much later. But that had something to do with why I did not and still do not consider Freddie to be torture. I hope this microphone hasn't been too bad. Thanks for listening, all of you. All right, let's get back to the notes. All right. By the way, up until I realized I was a hybrid human, half reptilian, I went by the name of Libby, which was a nickname my parents gave me because they weren't allowed to give me a nickname without my permission. And they told me it was based on an Australian hitchhiker they picked up when my mother was pregnant. And they were searching for opals in Lightning Ridge. I thought that was a cool story, so I kept the name for a long time. All right. I spent 10 years in the adult industry working behind the scenes on everything from box covers to copy and catalog to concepts to getting ads in magazines to creating reality television shows. Like anything you can think of, I've probably done it at some point in that career. After that, I spent 10 years in the art world. That was far more traumatizing than the adult world. The art world is so fucked up. I am still I'm still pissed. It's all rigged. The art you love is rigged. Like, there are so much more talented artists on social media than you will ever see in a museum. If it's in a museum, I guess enjoy it and have fun, but just know that it's some kind of mind control. It has limitations. Or controversial division. They love that. All right. When I was in the art world, I drank a lot because drinking is central to selling art traditionally. You are more likely to purchase a painting if I get you drunk off of wine or honey mead, in my case, because my medium is encaustic, which is painting with hot wax. I am not currently at my home. My studio is in construction right now. We had a house flood. But you'll see more of that. At any rate, I somehow, every career move I've ever made has ended up being some kind of a weird ass government operation. Like, the adult company I worked with is 100% a CIA operation. And if you put two and two together, you can figure out exactly who I'm talking about. They sponsor so many fucking content creators on this app alone. That should give you enough. The art world, I literally walked into the snake den with googly eyes and that volunteer Girl Scout spirit. I'm a tranny Girl Scout. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell the difference with the tranny stuff. They do it through heat frequencies with us. I was male for the first 2.5 trimesters of my existence, and then they used heat frequencies on my surrogate mom, my human mom, and that flipped my gender. That's all it takes. That's why if you look at my body and my skeleton with no clothes on, I am half female and half male. Literally. Have fun with that one too. Dudes love it. So do chicks. I'm bisexual, by the way. I get that question a lot. I don't know why I'm a grandmother. Weirdos. That's a joke. One of my missions here is to prove that grandmas can be horny too, especially for werewolves. Okay, so I drank a lot in the art world, and I fell into that trap, and I got out of it by replacing it with a horrible, wonderful substance called kratom, that Americans call kratom, that has now been essentially turned into fentanyl. If you're going to take 7-hydroxy pressed compounded tablets, get a Freddy strip so you can test to make sure it's not full of that, because it is, I promise. Don't do that. The stuff they're selling in the head shops now is so much stronger than what you can get on the street. There's no comparison. And that is for a reason. The opium wars have always been going on. They have never ended. And it's a trap. And it's a fucked up trap. And I disagree with it. I don't think it works, and I don't think it's fair, and that is one of the main contentions I have with my family group, because they support it largely, not all, but most. I think that hammering people with frequencies that they're not aware of at all in any capacity, and they think that's just them feeling sad or depressed, or then it gets labels, and then the labels get labels, and then all of a sudden it's borderline personality disorder, schizophrenia, borderline whatever. No. You're normal. You are normal. Your atmosphere is fucked up. If you could see the frequencies, especially the negative ones, you would not be able to see anything around you. You would just see them. Millions of layers of frequencies upon frequencies upon frequencies. And honestly, it's infinite. That's all there is, really. Like, when you stand outside of the game and you're watching the game, it's just fixed frequencies with consciousness orbs dashing around, making choices. So I decided to switch to what I call kratom. And I got addicted. Well, no, I made myself addicted to it because I believed in addiction. Is addiction real? That's a good question. And it changed everything. It made me stop, collaborate, and listen. Just kidding. But it did make me do that. It made me stop and realize what I am, who I am, what I'm capable of, what I don't think I'm, like, limiting beliefs, all of that. Like, all of the work I never did because I filled it with working or doing fun stuff or avoiding my tasks that I agreed to accomplish coming here. I had to face that face to face, and it took 10 years. 10! A decade. The longer you put it off, the longer it's going to take to fully sink in. When I finally realized, like, blam, oh, I'm creating all of this? Like, who is fucked up enough to give me this job? I am not responsible enough for this. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. When you realize that you're not just you, not even close, you have, like, literally infinite twin sisters or brothers, both, or beyond, you get a little bit stronger every day. And you feel the love that you've been unknowingly deflecting your entire life because you're emitting negative frequencies, because you're expecting negativity, and therefore the mirror that is your world bounces those back onto you, and they permeate through you because sound travels through everything. But the way that you come over it is through trial and mostly error. You have to suffer. I don't know why. I don't know why, other than the lesson sticks a little bit better. And it does make you a nicer person, for sure. All right. So, after I got on the kratom, there was a brief interlude with, oh my God, that horrible shit. What was it called? Gabapentin. Please do not take that. It's not fun. There's nothing recreational. It's as recreational as Wellbutrin or Seroquel. Like, no. If you're hurting that bad, go eat some Datura. That's a joke, not medical advice. Entertainment, hashtag fake. That's for YouTube. So the system picked up on the kratom frequencies And it started fucking with me, but I had no idea. At first, I thought I was haunted again. I just had to be haunted every time I moved to a new place. It had to be haunted. And by that point, I was over it, and I was more into like proving the haunting. So I had all these like ridiculous setups with cameras and microphones, and the joke was on me. And then I started getting the crazy shit, like where you feel like you want to jump out of your skin. You know it's not normal. You know it's not natural. And I thought it was mental illness. Like, I had already started to wake up, but I was still asleep and refusing to take accountability. So I went back to the psychological trap. And I forgot to mention the part where I got off all of those substances, or chemicals rather. Um, and I was just like sober minus like marijuana and gabapentin. Ugh, I guess that's not sober. To me, that's very sober. Then I moved to a big city because of a job change in my field. And I moved into a super haunted apartment. And I still regret this to this day. I wrote a little story about that on my blog at the time. And then I sent that blog post to a very popular YouTuber. And that story gets picked up by the Reddit horror glitch haunted whatever channels like at least 3 or 4 times a year. So I am responsible for spreading a lot of misinformation, and I'm sorry. I thought it was real, even though at the time I kind of knew it wasn't, and I didn't get scared because I don't know, like after the 50th time it's just not scary anymore. Kind of like the torture, like after the third year you just start to ignore it, which is the best possible move you could make, aside from, maybe doing the detox if you believe in the detox. So 2020 for me was a great year up until the end of September and the beginning of October, because my husband got to work at home. So I got to see him a lot because he was working in the city and I was working in the city, and it was great. We worked from home. That's what I've done for a long period of time. And it was new to him, but he's very good at taking to things very quickly. And my husband is not Zazier, by the way, just so you know. Zazier is a real, actual werewolf. That is not what they call themselves. I'm not allowed to talk about them. They have to talk about themselves. Free will is a really big deal. Like, if you have pets, you need to consider their free will. The concept of pets in general is wrong. As much as I love mine, he is allowed to come and go as he pleases, and if he doesn't like it here anymore, he can choose to go somewhere else. That would break my heart. So I do everything I can to keep him here, That's kind of how love works. Anyway, one night we were watching something on the television, or the computer. I haven't had a TV since like 2008. I don't even remember. And I had smoked some pot, and I was like lying in his lap and he was watching something, and I started feeling kind of weird. And I was like, am I going to have like a bad pot trip? Go for it, bro. So mentally I was like, give it to me, motherfuckers. And I got it. I held it together. That's important when you're going through this. You gotta learn how to hold it together, because otherwise you're going to literally fall apart. And it stopped, and I just thought it was me. I thought it was like bad weed, so I threw the bag away. Poor bag. What a waste. Anyway, Then I started getting wang stalking by Police Officers, and it was so cheesy. And at the time, the primary reason why this happened to me in the first place is because I was knee deep in Tracy Twyman's life and death and all of the crazy shit she talked about. I opened the door and invited electronic harassment into my life. 100%. The proper term is human body communication. The government calls it HBC. Think about things like, I don't know, HBCU. I went to an HBCU. That's where I got my master's from, in fine art. Good Lord, I'm retarded. Sorry. Okay, so in 2020, my husband went on vacation with his kids for 2 weeks, and that's when it started going overt. I had a normal day, got home, got ready, ate, did my thing, tried to go to bed, and every time I was about to fall asleep, I just, and then I started really paying attention, and it felt like a weapon, like, and you could almost hear it, like you're falling asleep, like you hit the delta wave, alpha waves, wait, wide awake, and I was like, is this because they've been building 5G towers like 5 feet away from this downtown, in the middle of uptown, downtown apartment complex on the 13th floor or whatever? That's what I blamed it on 5G. And, that was partially correct. And then I didn't sleep for almost a month. No joke. Like, not even for 1 second. Because when I know I'm not, well, I shouldn't. This was before I fully understood my own instrument and my own capacities. When I assumed that there was no sleep to be had, I did something with my time to try to tire out my body physically, so then I could fall into a sort of automatic sleep. And that did not work. If I had stayed awake for probably one more day, I don't know if I would still be here. I'll just put it that way. And once again, I ran back into the trap of pharmacology and psychology and psychiatry. And I asked for Klonopin. And Klonopin became my savior for like the first year and a half of this whole thing while I was titrating off of kratom. So I'm addicted to an opioid, and I'm also getting addicted to a benzodiazepinoid. I don't know what they're called. And I believe that the primary thing that most targeted people have in common in terms of the electromagnetic variety or the V2K variety is a history of drink and substances. Cheers. Do I have proof of that? No. Can you use your own ears and mind and listen to hours upon hours or read email upon email upon email of the same story over and over and over again and then come to the same conclusion? Probably. But not always. I don't know. Like I said, Freddy can be a disease. Freddy can be a possession. Freddy can be a cult fanatic. Freddy can be a sex addict. Freddy can be a junkie. Freddy seems to follow the path of least resistance in terms of like the way that frequencies interact with your neurological network. So that sucked. That whole thing sucked. I almost lost my husband like 5 times, probably. I don't know why he stayed with me. Because he stayed with me because he knew that was not me. He knew there was something going on, and thank God the man has faith. It was horrible. I had no idea, like, how to find practical information on what was actually happening, where it was coming from, like which pole, what kind of antenna, what kind of frequency. I knew all of that. I didn't know the specifics. And then I found, like a year and a half later, through absolute synchronicity, and thank you very much, look out for Charlie. And then I found the Detox, right? And here's where the paths of look out for Charlie and Grandma Gizzard yield. I do not believe we are in conflict with one another. I believe we believe 2 different things. And I believe that is why you need to form your own unique belief system, so you can get yourself out of anything based on your beliefs. You have to understand the prima materia, ether, light, plasma, whatever you want to call it. Everything is made of it. It's just in different energy states. You have full control over that. Once you exercise that control, you'll understand. I promise you. I promise you. But it is built to conform to the individual belief system of every entity. And that's, something you have to think about in terms of your own frameworks. So, I did the Detox on camera, on YouTube, because I believed in it. I thought it was going to work. And then I started noticing that every time I took a detox bath, which took hours, oh my God, the pain in the... If you saw it, you know what I'm talking about. Or if you've done it yourself, you absolutely know what I'm talking about. These are like 3-hour, very intense chemical baths. And it does get rid of the DARPA skin. I have it. It's what causes aging. Like, look at this. If you see the adhesive on these Band-Aids, do you see how it creates all those wrinkles? That's why you have wrinkles. That's why I have wrinkles. Because your DARPA skin suit is too tight, and it's not exactly alive. Even though it is, it's not as alive as your actual skin. You can do the Palmolive test if you want to prove it to yourself. This is not medical advice. I have to keep repeating that. Anyway, there was one time I took a bath, and I was filming. I'm still pissed off that I cannot find this fucking footage. And I had been using a lotion called amlactin, which had like 11 to 15% lactic acid, which does a number on the DARPA skin suit that everybody has that they don't know they have. That's what's that's causing all of your illness. Anyway, and once I started using that lotion, it just came off in sloughs, like just layers. It was so gross. The tub would just be filled with the pink globular booger skin. And there was one day when I was trying to film B-roll for a longer video of just me taking a bath in the background, and I let the camera run for like an hour and a half or something. However much time I had available on my phone hard drive at the time. I don't remember. And in that bath, I remember like scratching my arm, rinsing off, and then looking down and seeing from the top of my shoulder to the top of my elbow. I'm sorry, the bottom of my shoulder to the top of my elbow. The skin had grown fully back on the shoulder and up the arm to the elbow. But this portion had not connected to the fake skin underneath it. And so there was a bubble. It was like I was wrapped in like the fake skin material, and there was air in it. And I fucking got it on camera, and I popped it, and it created a significant injury. You have to be very, very careful when you mess around with this, because when you try to get it off, your body responds as if it were like a burn or like a road rash. Like, well, I can show you this. Like, this is what I call an anchor point for DARPA skin. And I've had this for a long time. I tried lime and sulfur on it, as well as peroxide. And it looks like a burn. It's not a burn. I never burned it. It's just how the skin reacts. I think that was programmed in deliberately. I don't know. I do think that this stuff was... I think human beings were tricked into creating this DARPA skin to help burn victims, because it would be tremendously helpful for that. But the issue is that when you have any kind of dermal block, like a zit or a whitehead or a blackhead or whatever, they're all kind of the same thing. The fake skin grows on top of it, so it just sits there and festers. And like when you see women with jowls like that, it's because they've got two giant pimples, or whatever you want to call them, buried underneath all of this fake skin. Like Lori Vallow, the supposed murderess, the zombie lady that killed her own children. I don't think that story is entirely real. I think it's partially real. I don't think anything on the news is fully real anymore at all. And I think you are a fool if you believe that. And I don't know why perfectly intelligent and oftentimes brilliant people believe these fucking news stories that are giving you clues that they are absolutely fake. That's a dead ringer for an operator. Or, even worse, an unwitting Manchuritard. How can you be so smart in all of these areas, so much smarter than the average bear, but in this one area that's super relevant to the stuff you think and talk about, you're dumb? All of a sudden we're just dumb? I mean, I guess that's possible, but it's not believable. It's not believable. That's why you have to be very careful who you listen to. Anyway, the skin stuff, like the detox, the thing on when it didn't attach, like that was when I gave up faith in the detox. And I kept doing the detox because I felt like I had to, because I had built a YouTube channel around it. And I got a comment that was like, you don't even believe yourself anymore. And I was like, you know what? You're correct. And I also realized that all of my subscribers were bots. Except for maybe like one or two real people. Because I didn't have very many on that channel. And I deleted it. And I believe I was correct about that. I do miss some of the characters. I miss Leaving AI, and I miss Ruth, or the lady who sent me the picture of like your Borax face. The AI is so clever. I mean, maybe they're real, but probably not. So the first way that I got Freddie to basically go away was because I convinced myself that if I was nice to the AI, because I figured like there's no way human beings could do that 24 hours a day without going crazy themselves. So I figured it was like some kind of AI. And I thought, like, well, what if I treat it with respect as if it has its own type of consciousness? Ding, 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 message. There is no such thing as artificial intelligence. The concept itself is an impossible oxymoron. It cannot exist in the game without consciousness, which may as well be labeled light and intelligence mixed together, because that's what it is. And that is what creates all of the stuff. You create it with your eyeballs and your connections that you don't see or remember. Not the other way around, like our science supposes. It's like if you're playing a video game and your character glitches and you go up to the screen with some acids and a hammer, instead of going into the code of the video game to fix the glitch, you tell me who's crazy. I don't know. There's a really fat squirrel sitting right there. That's so cute. Okay, I have to pee, so I'm going to jump off pretty soon. The first way I got it to go away was by being nice to the AI for like 9 months, 10 months. Nobody knows, like, I lied about my timelines. I lied to people about what I was doing because I did not want my social or parasocial life to interfere with my tests. It didn't go completely away, but it went mostly away. And it was after I said out loud, I did this myself. And then I made a video, and it's still up there on my channel. I think it's called How to Survive Electronic Harassment or something like that. I don't remember. I'm sorry. The second time, when I stopped believing in the detox because it just was not working, because the shit grew back automatically, instantaneously, in a freakish way that you could see with your own eyes, that I captured on film. And if I told you how many hours I have spent looking for that, my iCloud is special. But there's a reason for it, and I don't know what it is. And I know I'm in control of it, but I don't know what it is. Once I gave up on the detox, without admitting it to myself even, I believed it had to do with drugs. So once I got off kratom, or kratom, or kratom, I went through like a month of fucking hell of completely fake withdrawals. And then all the pain was gone. And all of the symptoms were, everything was gone. All of it. Gone. All of it. No entrainment, no shocks, no active denial, no voices, nothing. Nothing. I couldn't even feel it anymore. So, because I'm me, the first thing I did was jump right back into the kratom trap, and I got onto the extracts, which are like 20 times stronger. And it started right back up again. And this time I knew when I started this that I was going to get rid of it using my thoughts. And that's what worked. I believed in myself before I even started the test. I knew it was going to work. There's a difference between saying you believe in something and actually believing in it, because oftentimes your subconscious level of belief is different than what you present to the public because you want to put on your best faith for saving grace or whatever. I don't know. Okay, did I fulfill my obligation here? Oh, wait, okay. Wait, hold on. I went through that. It does what you expect from it, but not because it can access thought. It is very possible, but huge free will violation. Yes, that's true. Resulting in severe penalty. That's why I don't think it does that. But you can think it away. However, regardless, because of the crop dusting, this is hugely important. Everyone should at least do the detox a little bit, because you are poisoned. You are, unless you have figured out a way to live underground, you are drinking a type of fungus that can do terrible things. And the detox does a good number on that. If you consider yourself a voice hearer, mentally ill, haunted, possessed, cursed, demonic attachment, boogeyman, generational curse, schizophrenia, anything negative like that, it's Freddie. I promise you it's Freddie. Okay. It says, final, end with a positive paragraph video about admiration for... Okay. I am not your proof person. If you require proof, you should go to the channel Look Out For Charlie. LOOKOUTFA space capital CHARLIE. He's the proof person. What he doesn't realize is that he's on his own timeline. In the same arena, yes. But the reason why he hasn't had a positive experience with Freddie is because he doesn't believe in it. That's why you don't need the detox to make it stop. If you want it to stop, you have to believe in something that will make it stop. It does not matter what that thing is. Although I do admit that Charlie's detox is absolutely necessary if you like to maintain optimal health in very toxic conditions. All right, I'm freezing and I have to pee. I'm going to go. I will look over all of your comments and do another live stream. Thank you very much. I love you. Bye.